It's now time for the Blown Call Show. All of today's important topics in the world of sports, wrestling, and entertainment, told from a uniquely Canadian perspective. And now, here is your host, Mike the Ref, on the Edmonton Sports Podcast Network.
All right, folks, welcome to episode 93 of the Blown Call Show here on the Edmonton Sports Podcast Network. I am Mike the Ref, senior engineer here at Edmonton SPN. First of all, thank you very much for downloading this podcast, and I hope you're enjoying all the stuff on the network right now. It is Saturday, September 30th. It's late, so you're probably going to get this on Sunday, October 1st. And it has been a very interesting couple weeks here in sports, wrestling, all that. And episode 92 is actually rather apropos when it comes to when you're talking about online suppliers. One of the biggest announcements this week was the essential dissolvement of FloSlam. You have FloSlam suing WWN for false numbers given when it came to advertising, setting up their advertising contracts and pay-per-view contracts. And now WWN is countersuing based on the fact that they're not providing the service that they signed up for. My take simply is that I think both sides might be a little guilty here. WWN might not have produced the best numbers in the world. Hey, it's a wrestling business. I've learned for a while now that the wrestling business sometimes doesn't give exactly the most accurate information when it comes to financials. But it's up to it's up to FloSlam for that matter to double check these numbers, make sure they're accurate. If you're going to go buy a car and the salesman's going to tell you X, Y, and Z was done, half the time people are actually going to take the vehicle to their own mechanic to take a look at it before they buy it. I think that FloSlam got caught being a little too willing to take those numbers into effect here. Either way, I really hate to see that this is not becoming an amicable solution for both parties. The last weekend's Evolve show, which I heard was really, really good, for lack of a better term, went up on their WWN site, the pay-per-view site that they originally had, for $9.99. And if you were a FloSlam subscriber and could prove it, they decided they would give you $5 off, so it would be $4.99 for the week, or for the show, apparently. They did everything they could at this short-term situation. I just hope they come up with a long-term solution. There is quite a few different opportunities. You have Powerbomb TV, you have the High Spots Network, and I'm sure they could still go with their same model. I just don't think they're going to get the same numbers just on the fact that one show for them is going to equal the cost of a month for some of these other streaming services. So, but I will admit you get what you pay for. So their shows are definitely worth it. Sort of the same issue that we're going to bring up here in the, I think we're going to do that on my next show when we're talking about price ticketing and whatnot. Other than that, now, after I talked about DAZN and their poor service in Canada last month for the first couple weeks of the season, they have offered a free month, $20 off to their subscribers. I don't think these subscribers really care unless they get the product fixed. Because right now, from what I'm hearing, the product is still horrible on their streaming service. And I think the NFL is going to have to look into ways whether it be canceling their contract with Dazen, which I would assume that the NFL would have a clause in their contract that they're allowed to get out of it at a certain point. Or they're going to have to find some way to support Dazen somehow to improve their service. So, other than that, when it comes to sports here, hockey season is just about to begin. Last preseason game is on currently while I'm recording this show with the Edmonton Oilers in Vancouver to play the Canucks. Also, we got the Eskimos playing the Blue Bombers currently right now on my boob tube in front of me here. So the wrestling scene, everything is gearing up now for the last big push of 2017. For those that don't know, mostly in Alberta, for most of the established promotions, they take the month of December off, but they really provide some great shows throughout October and November. So I'm going to talk about those more in the upcoming events here. But I think it's about time I finish rambling here and get on to my main topic this week. And this started about 2 weeks ago with some changes made in the CFL to their rules randomly throughout the season. And just looking at what Canadians would do to fix the problem versus what Americans have done with some similar but different things that have happened down there, causing some problems. Plus, everybody has had this problem with kneeling versus standing over the flag. What's it mean? What does it do? I think I have a little simpler situation to this and some intelligent reasons why these reasons should be done here. But let's get on to the main topic of the show. And please, feel free to send your comments to me at Mike the Ref on Twitter, as well as the Blown Call Show at gmail.com. Also, facebook.com/Edmonton SPN is the email address. So, but with that, let's get to our main topic of the show this week. All right, folks, time for the main topic of the show. And this actually popped up about 2 weeks ago, dealing primarily with the CFL and NFL and some of the biggest differences between the two. For those that don't know, in the Canadian Football League, they made a couple random changes in the middle of a season here. Actually, rather big ones. First of all, they eliminated padded practice at all CFL practices. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this is a great idea to keep people safe. The only two concerns I have is, one, linemen are so used to being involved in contact that not having any contact at practice, they might learn some bad techniques and whatnot, and they get affected in the game. And the second one is, if you're a person who is trying to get into the lineup, trying to earn a spot off the practice roster or whatnot, it's going to be very difficult for you to try and prove yourself if you're not able to show them what you can actually do in a game. So that can be a very frustrating part of this. And the second one, they used to have the policy in the CFL. You'd have two challenges. You can use them whenever during the game, except you got to use up one prior to the last 3 minutes of the game. And you can use up to one during the last 3 minutes of the game. Now, I can understand them changing it down to one now, period, because they felt that the challenges were taking too long. Now, the reason why my objection came up is 2 weeks in a row, the Edmonton Eskimos quarterback Mike Riley, on the last offensive play of the game, ended up getting speared by various players, both in Calgary and in Toronto, that would have put them in a position where they could have won the game. 15 yards at a first down late in the game when you're down by 2 points. You can line up for a field goal rather than turning the ball over on downs. It was rather frustrating to watch, and because there is no challenge flag available, they aren't able to argue the call. Now, with that being said, they changed the rule, fine, be that way. The issue I have right now is the fact that this was changed in the middle of the season, randomly, in between games, like during midweek in terms of the practice part of it. And during a season where certain teams are going to get certain number of games involving this rule, some more than others, some less than others. Now, where this came up as an issue for me is I look at Canadians and they just grin and bear it, basically, is what we're doing right now. But in the U.S., you have Deflategate, a 4-game suspension against Tom Brady. You have a domestic violence charge against Ezekiel Elliott with a 6-game suspension that is currently being upheld because the player decided to go to court and argue that thing is unfair. The suspension's unfair, and it's being upheld in a courtroom. In Canada, we wouldn't go to court over it, but in the States, they would. And that, to me, is where my idea comes in. Randy Ambrosie went a little bit too far as I was concerned when it comes to instant replay here. And the fact that he did it during the season, I am shocked that not one team decided to put up an injunction against it, put an argument against it. You could tell with Edmonton Eskimos head coach Jason Maas, he's just gritting his teeth every interview he had about this. And he simply said, not going to comment. It's something that really is a painful thing to watch, and I know that he wants to say something. He got in trouble last year because every other coach had a live mic for one game, and the Eskimos just said, no, we're not going to do it. Now, be it on the Eskimos, they didn't feel like doing it. I can understand it. It's not part of their deal. All the other teams are willing to do it. Well, good for them. That's not something that should be that's something that should be mandated halfway through the season. If you're going to do something like this, agree to it before the season. Everybody's got to sign off on it. And if not, have a firm rule set in place. Everybody's, we'll just talk to it behind closed doors, and we'll say, well, you know what, eventually if we got to do a suspension, we'll give you a suspension. But they had nothing set up, nothing planned, nothing put together on it. To me, it's frustrating when you see in the States, they do something even so slightly to change something in the middle of a season, automatically going to court, getting a injunction, changing things around, going to 6 different levels of court. It took them 1 year to get Tom Brady suspended finally. So, but going on from here, you want to talk about putting yourself in a bad situation at the wrong time? This is a very touchy topic for a lot of people. So I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm not going to get into my opinions of who is right, who is wrong, who is otherwise in this, because my podcast network is not here for politics. It is here to talk about sports, talk about the game, talk about things that are relevant to the game. I'm just going to lay out straight facts here right now. Now, this whole kneeling, standing, what rigmarole over the flag issue, people are talking about it desecrating the military, desecrating the flag. Folks, I don't want to get into it too much, but I'm going to say a couple facts here. Number one, in the rules of carrying the flag, it's never supposed to be horizontal. So every time these guys unroll it at an NFL game to cover up the field, they're actually laying out a bad situation right there. And second of all, I don't think any of these protests that they brought up have anything to do with the flag issue itself, with desecrating the flag, the desecrate the military or anything. They're trying to fight against inequality at times, and they're public figures, and they want to use something that is going to get people's voices up about it. And let's face it, folks, it has. Right, wrong, or otherwise, it has generated a lot of buzz and a lot of controversy. Take a look at the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. For the fact that they say they don't want to get involved, yet they've made the decision to go to the White House as part of their normal routine, that shows to me that, unfortunately, this is a situation where you're going to have to make a decision or not based on the current landscape. I got a way to fix this for everybody involved. And this just comes back from my experiences as part of a referee doing college ball, doing high school ball, and in many levels. Some games we had the national anthem. Some games we didn't. Frankly, most places, when they had the national anthem brought up, unless you get an atmosphere like you did at Rogers Place during the playoffs, which, let's face it, folks, it's going to take a lot for that to happen. For the most part, the anthem doesn't need to be presented, sung, etc. Most of the athletes that they have down in the States, especially the NHL, are not American. They're Canadian. I understand the NFL is mostly Americans. Don't shoot me now. But I find that in these warm-up procedures, typically for the match to begin or the show to begin, you announce the starters, the referees, the coaches, then everybody stands in place, listens to the anthem, and then they get going. Everybody's all fired up, coming out, ready to go. All of a sudden, they got to go back down a bit because they got to listen to the anthem, pay respect, and then right back up. Getting rid of the anthem itself at sporting events would serve two purposes. Number one, the athletes, the crowd, while they have all this pent-up energy, it would just be released into a fervor and just go, go, go. And that's what you want. You want the fans to stay excited. And my second reason is that if you want to eliminate this controversy, and let's face it, folks, sports is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be two teams playing for the fun of the game, looking out to win lots of money on your sports select, all that good stuff. Having issues like this, more people are talking about flags and kneeling than they are talking about the actual game itself here right now. And if you eliminate the ability of anybody to protest in a situation like that, then you're going to be better off. You find a solution by getting rid of the problem in many respects. I know it's not going to solve the socio-political issue, but it's going to eliminate the chance of having the sports involved in creating an issue with it. Now, with that being said, people are like, well, are you so anti-military? Are you so anti-flag? All that? No, I'm not. Not at all. I know a few wrestlers that have been involved in the military, and I have the ultimate respect for them and what they do. And I feel that a lot of people don't in these days when it comes to going to listen to the anthem. They'll stand there, they'll stay quiet, but they don't really care. They just want the game to start. You want to appreciate people like your military and your first responders? Here's an example for you. The Edmonton Eskimos tonight, September 30th, they're actually having military appreciation night at their game. You want to appreciate somebody directly, do something like what they're doing tonight. That's how you appreciate somebody here. Like I said, I'm not going to get into political views here because I've never wanted this network to be involved in political views. But I will say this. If you want to keep something off the minds of the people that are involved, there's ways to get rid of it. Out of sight, out of mind. will take it away for about 3 hours a day. We know there's a lot of controversies right now in this world, and trust me, there's a lot of things I don't like about, and there's a lot of things I do. And but the thing is, you need to understand that sports is not meant to be a vehicle for politics. I understand we had our Jesse Owens moments in 36, and you have countries not participating in the Olympics and whatnot. Can we just remember what sports is really all about? And that is sports. It's not meant to be taken as seriously as it is. I know that a lot of athletes that are involved do have a lot of political opinions, but the sports field isn't really where you're supposed to talk about that. You're supposed to be looking to punch somebody in the mush or tackle somebody, go for 100 yards, hit a puck at 70 miles an hour towards the net. All these things that are sports related, not politically motivated. Don't be bigger than what you think you are. And that's the key thing for me. But, folks, I want to have your thoughts. Please feel free to get a hold of me on Twitter at MikeTheRef. Also, you can get a hold of me at theblowncallshow@gmail.com, facebook.com/Edmonton SPN. But with that, we are going to move on to October's upcoming events here. All right, folks, time for the upcoming events. And once again, the upcoming events are sponsored by the Edmonton SPN merchandise store at whatamaneuver.net. Make sure you pick up your Front Row Mafia, your Danimal, Daniel Jobber, as well as One World Empire and Struggle merchandise. Now that we're getting into the fall and winter seasons, please remember we do have pullovers and sweaters available. That is at www.whatamaneuver.net/collection/Edmonton SPN. It'll be in the show notes, folks. But let's get on to our upcoming events, because October is a little bit of busy and then a little bit of quiet in the middle here. First of all, on the 7th of October in Calgary is PWA Destiny being held at the Cedar Brae Community League in Calgary. 4 big matches have been announced. Actually, they were announced earlier today. You got Sheik Akbar Shabazz taking on the Highlander, the PWA legend there. And then in a non-title contest, and this is one that should be really interesting. We've seen it a few times in a few other federations, but ever since Bobby Sharp has taken a little turn for the nasty, it seems like he's brought out a lot of bigger character out of himself here. But he's going to be taking on Tiger Ali Safe, a non-title contest, but a win by Safe could get him a shot at that Mayhem Championship at Fright Night coming up. But then also you have Michael Allen Richard Clark taking on Sean Moore, who very well could be the next PWA heavyweight champion. That'll come at the coming up in a bit here, folks. But one title match that has been confirmed for the PWA Commonwealth title. Kenneth Anthony is going to be defending against Edmonton SPN favorite and Andre C. Hayton, Jeff Tyler, the high flyer, the sky flyer, Jeff Tyler. He very well could have gold going into Fright Night coming up on the 28th. I'll talk about Fright Night here in one sec, folks, here. But also on the same night in Edmonton, Monster Pro Wrestling is going to have their Road to Retribution show at the Alberta Avenue Arena in downtown Edmonton. Now, this is going to be a very interesting event coming out of last month's show. I'm hearing rumblings that the Cats Meow are challenging Tag Struggle for their championships. Whether it gets accepted or not, I'm still trying to get a hold of Chris Parrish to find out. He's too busy trying to prepare for his Saints to lose in London tomorrow, but that's a story for another day. And then as well, there's been some appeals brought in by Crazy Court to the MPW head office for a rematch with the Irishman. He feels that Massive Damage caused a little undue interference by ejecting his manager just because she didn't have the manager's license on her at the show. We all knew she was the manager, but hey, you know what? You're supposed to have your license with you every time that you show up somewhere. So I'll digress at that point, but we might have a rematch there. And then I'm pretty sure we're going to have our first title defense by the real deal, Sydney Steele, the new MPW provincial champion. So that is going to be a hell of a show. I'm actually going to be doing live camera coverage at the show for some upcoming projects that Pontarella Productions and myself are working on together. But I'll give you details about that later on as well. I know I got a lot of details to come, but trust me, folks, it is worth it. And then from there, we go on a bit of a hiatus. For those listening in America and whatnot, you need to remember that Canadian Thanksgiving actually happens on the second Monday of October rather than late Thursday. So things are a little quiet throughout the middle of the month, but then they rev back up on the 28th of October. We're going to have a little dual coverage going on here. In Edmonton, Andre C. is going to be heading up a quick call show from the PWA Fright Night show. A lot of the details on this show from the Northgate Lions Senior Center are not for sure yet because we have to wait for Destiny to unfurl. But what I can tell you is due to some haunting effects at the Fall Fever show in Edmonton last month, it looks like it's going to be the Omen taking on Sheik Akbar Shabazz. And this is beyond grudge. Like last time that we saw the Omen, he was getting stuffed in a coffin and dragged off into the abyss, for no pun intended there. I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm excited to find out. But your main event has been set for that show. It is a 5-on-4 elimination match with Sean Moore, Jeff Tyler, and Raging Hawks taking on the Millennial Rebels, Colton Kelly, Reed Matthews, along with Kenneth Anthony, and then the co-holders of the PWA Heavyweight Championship, Brandon Van Danielson and Michael Richard Blaze. If the team without the belts wins the match, from what I've been told, all the belts revert over to the challengers. Still try to get a little clarification just in case it's a 1-for-1 swap, but all indications indicate that we could have 3 title changes in one match. So it's going to be interesting to say the least. But then also on that same night, on the 28th of October, I'm going to be heading up the coverage, and this will probably be a YouTube first show from the Abbey Master Builder Center in Blackfalds with CWC Headlock of Horrors 2. Now, coming off that head shaving of Jack Pride, thanks to Chris Parrish, there's been some rather cryptic notes going out through Jack Pride's Instagram and other methods of social media. It's been rather disturbing. But speaking of disturbing, I after the show I got a little bit of a word from primetime Xander Price, who ended up losing to Skylar Paris Austin, and he is not in a good state of affairs. I know he's talking to the general and CWC head office to try to find some way to validate himself, but I don't know what's going to come of that. You got Johnny Kickass and the Irishman not seeing eye to eye right now, but one of our main events is going to be the crowning of brand new CWC Tag Team Champions, as the Red Rocker T.S. Cutler and the Hall of Famer Massive Damage are going to be teaming up to take on the Wrecking Crew of Dynamic Dean Richter and the headline Sean Martins. Now, Richter recently lost his MPW provincial title, and I don't know what's going to happen here because he's got a little bit of an attitude on him right now that he's a little upset about losing that belt, and it looks like he might try and take it out on the team of Cutler and Damage. And if he does, he could become the first ever tag team champions in CWC. So, other than that, I'm wondering what's going to happen with the provincial champion, Dylan Stone. Is he still at odds with Jack Pride after what happened during the main event of last show? And who knows, folks? It's going to be a crazy time. I'll try to get you guys some more details as they come in. Don't forget, we are going to have CWC Evolution coming up on the Edmonton SPN YouTube page. Next show should be up on the 8th, the Sunday. I'm trying to go for every second Sunday from here on out. Makes things a little more continuous and clear. They do have one show a month, so it does work out rather even. I know the next show is going to feature the tag team matches at the last show, as well as I believe the other one is the Xander Price, Skylar Paris Austin match. So, but I'll let you guys know a little bit more once they get together and get put out here. So, in terms of network stuff coming up, we're going to have the Sounds of Struggle coming out every Thursday, as always. Here, Chris Parrish likes to think of himself as the flagship station of the network here. And, of course, I'm going to take a break next week from the Blown Calls show because I want to get some video put together here. Make sure that Evolution gets out on time for you guys. But I'm sure I'm going to have some interesting topics coming back. I'm probably going to get some interesting feedback from tonight's show. So, other than that, quick calls. Our next quick calls are going to be coming from Monster Pro Wrestling coming up on the 7th. And some big announcements are going to be coming up in November, folks. Starting with the Night of Retribution, November 4th, we're going to have one big announcement. Actually, it's going to be two big announcements in regards to some work with MPW and whatnot. And one of the new shows that's going to be coming up on the network as well. And then November 17th for the Canuck Pro Show in Calgary, we're going to have our third. I'm thinking it's the final one, but you never know, folks. Another big announcement in regards to the future of Edmonton SPN. So you're definitely going to want to check that out as well. So, but I think I've rambled on here with the upcoming events for long enough here, folks. I'm going to send this show into the abyss so I can finish watching the Eskimos Blue Bombers game, which I'm really praying that the Eskimos finally get a win here, but I'll digress at that point. Just want to remind you folks to take care of your referees because they definitely have a tough job to do, but they will come up with a blown call every once in a while. And this has been the Blown Call Show with Mike the Ref here on the Edmonton Sports Podcast Network.
This has been the Blown Call Show with your host, Mike the Ref, on the Edmonton Sports Podcast Network. For more information on all the network programming, search Edmonton Sports Podcast Network on iTunes, YouTube, and Facebook, or check out their website at edmontonspn.podbean.com.